December 18th, 1944. Outside Bastogne. Snow wasn't falling, it was attacking. Sideways. Violently. Like nature itself was sick of the war and wanted everyone to go home. Inside an M4 Sherman tank, lovingly named Missouri Belle, because apparently giving a paper-thin death trap a cute name helps morale, Private First Class Dale Hutchkins stared through the gunner's sight trying to see a mile through snow, fear, and terrible American tank design. If you're new here and you want real, immersive World War II stories that put you in the cockpit, in the trenches, and behind enemy lines, subscribe now. Most people scroll past history, but you're here to experience it. So hit subscribe and like the video. The mission's only just begun. On the horizon stood a Tiger tank, not a roar and pounce kind of tiger. No, this was the German kind. 57 tons of your life insurance policy just expired. A rolling cathedral of steel and engineer arrogance pointing its absurdly long 88mm gun directly at them. The crew didn't breathe. The intercom hissed, and Sergeant Bill Cordell, their fearless leader, delivered the pep talk of the century. Dale, if that Tiger fires first, we're dead. Inspirational. Here's the math nobody likes talking about, especially Americans in the comments. The Tiger's frontal armor, 100mm of German Try-Me. The Sherman's gun, 75mm of Please Sir, may I scratch your paint. German engineering was like, we forged this armor using the blood of the gods and metallurgical sorcery. American engineering was like, we built 50,000 of these fast, so statistically a few of you should survive. Feel free to argue in the comments. I know some Sherman fanboys are already typing. But here's the part that breaks military logic. The man staring at that Tiger wasn't a decorated general. He wasn't a tactical mastermind. He was a 22-year-old farm mechanic from Nebraska who 7 weeks ago was fixing tractors and arguing with cows. And he was about to do something that every Army manual said was impossible: kill a Tiger tank from the front. Sherman versus Tiger was not a duel. It was a legalized mugging. Tiger sees Sherman, kaboom. Sherman sees Tiger, guys, maybe we should flank. And before some historian in the comments says, well, actually, the Sherman was good at shh, let the trauma speak. The Tiger could vaporize a Sherman from a mile away. The Sherman couldn't penetrate the Tiger's armor even if it drove up, knocked politely, and asked permission. By mid-December, the U.S. 9th Armored Division had lost 43 Shermans. Translation: Tiger spots Sherman, Tiger fires, Sherman becomes campfire. Shermans were mass-produced, one every 38 minutes, because nothing screams quality military planning like treating tanks the way McDonald's treats French fries. Meanwhile, the Tiger was a precision-built monument to overcompensation, 57 tons of "my dad works at Porsche." And yet, one farm boy, armed with illegal welding, pure spite, and zero respect for the rulebook, was about to flip the entire power dynamic. Not with fancy tactics, not with superior firepower, with baling wire. Against that kind of superiority, the official doctrine was basically avoid frontal engagement, flank, call air support, wait for tank destroyers. Translation: don't fight it, run away and pray someone cooler shows up. But in Bastogne, surrounded by the German 5th Panzer Army, there was no flanking, no air support, no tank destroyers, no heroic reinforcement montage. Just cold, fear, and Shermans dying faster than American optimism. Dale Hutchkins was never supposed to be here. Before the war, he was fixing tractors in Nebraska and arguing with broken farm equipment like it was a sentient being. He understood metal not from engineering manuals, but from plowshares snapping in his hands and machinery that refused to behave unless you kicked it. He wasn't loud. He wasn't a glory chaser. He was just that quiet guy at work who solves problems while management holds useless meetings. And after watching Shermans burn like disposable Bic lighters, he stopped thinking like a soldier and started thinking like what he actually was, a mechanic. On December 16th, freezing, exhausted, and covered in grease, Hutchkins noticed that every time their gunner missed a tiger, they had no freaking clue where the round went. The Sherman's gun sight had no precise markings. Every shot was basically aim somewhere. He remembered watching his father weld metal, how heat revealed weakness, and then it hit him. If they could see where each shot landed, they could stack impacts, repeated stress, microfracture, penetration. That night, with a generator coughing like a chain smoker, Hutchkins stole 4 strips of baling wire and welded them around the gun mantelet in a cross pattern, top left, top right, bottom left, bottom right. When the gun fired, the muzzle flash would illuminate the wires, creating a glowing reference grid so the gunner could adjust shot placement instantly. A field-made targeting system. Zero cost, zero permission, 100% illegal. Regulations banned modifications to combat vehicles. The punishment? Up to 5 years in military prison. Because apparently, the U.S. Army feared innovation more than German tanks. But Hutchkins wasn't thinking about paperwork or rules. He was thinking about not dying inside a metal coffin. At dawn, Sergeant Cordell and Corporal Blake saw the modification. Cordell stared at it like Hutchkins had welded a waffle maker to the tank. "You welded wire to my tank?" "Not to it," Hutchkins said. "For it." He explained the idea. 3 shots in the same spot could crack even Tiger armor. Cordell stared at him, processing it, then finally shrugged. "Fine, Nebraska. We'll try your farmer science." Hours later, a Tiger rolled into view, 1,400 yards out, looking like a bank vault on treads. Blake fired. The round struck high and right. The baling wire glowed red for a heartbeat. He adjusted. Fired again. Low left. 3rd shot. Same exact aim point. Penetration. The Tiger stopped. Smoke poured from its turret. A Sherman had just killed a Tiger from the front. Minutes later, they did it again. 2 Tigers down, 0 losses. The Army called it an illegal modification. The crews called it the farmer's grid. By December 20th, 14 Shermans had copied the trick. Suddenly, Tigers weren't invincible. They were vulnerable to baling wire and pissed-off farm boys. In the next engagement, Shermans destroyed 8 Tigers and lost only 2 tanks. No engineers, no fancy blueprints, no permission. Just a mechanic from Nebraska who ignored doctrine and welded hope to a tank. If that doesn't trigger someone in the comments, nothing will. Tomorrow, the Germans will arrive. Tonight, Mikhail prepares the earth itself to fight. A shovel scrapes. A man breathes. A nation waits. Midnight settles over the countryside like a burial shroud. To the west, miles away, faint artillery thumps from the front line echo, reminders that this land has already been eaten by war. Wolves howl in the distance. Horses shift restlessly in stables. Even the wind seems to hold its breath, afraid to disturb the dirt being moved by a single pair of shaking arms. Mikhail digs like a man possessed. Every thrust of the shovel is a prayer, a curse, and a promise. Shovel, lift, dump, breathe, repeat. He glances constantly toward the tree line, not for Germans, but for neighbors. Not out of shame, because he knows what they'll say. It is hopeless. You are crazy. They will kill us all. He cannot afford doubt. Doubt kills faster than bullets. He moves to the wagon, opens a small crate, and pulls out a sealed clay jug. The cork pops. The sharp, bitter scent fills the air. Linseed oil. He's used it to treat wooden tools and preserve wagon wheels his whole life. Tonight, it becomes a weapon. He pours a slick trail across the road, not in a puddle, but in a streak, angled like a fisherman's net. He wants panic, not just slipping. He wants the second tank to veer, to correct, to trap itself sideways like a bull in a pit. He empties the jug, then a second. The night wind carries the smell, mixing with sweat and soil. Next, he drags a hay cart to the road's edge, deliberately half-blocking one side. He overturns a wooden plow beside it. To any passerby, it will look like tools abandoned in chaos. But he is not creating chaos. He is shaping it. The earth is soft here, heavy with summer moisture. A tank could skirt around the cart, yes, but only if it chooses the right angle. Only if its commander expects to encounter traps. German officers do not expect traps from barefoot farmers. He places branches over the trench, careful not to snap them. He sprinkles loose dirt, hay, and fallen leaves. Then he stands, back aching, palms raw, and examines his work. From a distance, it looks like untouched ground. Underneath, it is a steel coffin for the first tank foolish enough to trust this road.
He wipes his brow. His heart is hammering so loudly he swears the trees can hear it. But he is not done. He reaches into his pocket and pulls out two objects. Not grenades, he doesn't have any, but old metal canisters wrapped in rags, tied with string. If a German infantryman sees them lying near a wagon, fuse string trailing, his imagination will do the rest. Fear is the closest thing to ammo he has. He places them carefully where booted soldiers will see them in confusion, panic, adrenaline. Last, he crouches and presses his ear to the dirt, listening. Nothing yet, but dawn is crawling closer. Soon the panzers will growl like metallic thunder over the horizon. He steps back. The trap looks crude, uneven, desperate, exactly as it should.
August 1944. The Allied breakthrough at Normandy has shattered German defenses across France. General George Patton's Third Army is racing eastward at speeds no military planner thought possible, advancing 30, 40, sometimes 50 miles per day. But there's a problem no one anticipated. The armies are outrunning their supply lines. Every Sherman tank burns 5 gallons of fuel per mile. Every infantry division needs 650 tons of supplies daily: ammunition, rations, medical equipment, spare parts. At the Supreme Headquarters, the logistics officers are looking at numbers that don't add up. Patton's tanks are literally running dry. The Third Army has advanced so rapidly that trucks can't keep pace. In 1 week alone, forward units report being down to 3 days of ammunition. Some tank battalions are completely immobilized, not from enemy action, but from empty fuel tanks. The room erupts when Colonel Frank Ross, Chief of Transportation, briefs General Eisenhower on August 21st. We're losing 23% of supplies before they reach the front, Ross reports. Truck accidents, German air attacks, vehicles breaking down mid-convoy. If Patton stops moving, the Germans will reinforce. If he keeps moving without supplies, his army will collapse.
Eisenhower stares at the map. The window to end the war by Christmas is closing. How long to fix this? Weeks, maybe months. We'd need to completely redesign the convoy system, establish proper maintenance depots. But they don't have weeks. Eisenhower's finger traces the red line marking the German border. The Wehrmacht is retreating now. Give them time to regroup, and they'll be fighting through the Siegfried Line in winter. I need solutions in days, gentlemen, not months. The meeting adjourns with no answers. Meanwhile, 90 miles away, Technical Sergeant Raymond Ray Kowalski sits in the cab of his GMC Jimmy truck, staring at the wreckage of another convoy. 8 trucks overturned and burned, supplies scattered across the roadside. A Luftwaffe strafing run caught them bunched together on a narrow road, sitting ducks. Kowalski, 34, a long-haul trucker from Pittsburgh before the war. No college degree, no military pedigree. Just 15 years hauling steel through Pennsylvania's mountain roads. Watches good men die because nobody in command understands trucking. He lights a cigarette, remembering something his old dispatcher used to say. Convoys are for show. Profits are in the spacing. Before we continue, if you're fascinated by untold innovations that changed history, hit subscribe and drop a like on this video for more amazing World War II stories every day.
The Red Ball Express. Official convoy doctrine. 20-plus trucks, 60 yards apart, 25 miles per hour max. Safety in numbers. But Kowalski has seen 6 convoys in 2 weeks, every one taking casualties. The problem isn't just German air attacks, it's the convoy itself. 20 trucks bunched on a rural road create a target visible for miles. When aircraft appear, the entire convoy stops, trapped. Yet he notices something else. When a few impatient drivers leave alone once loaded, those trucks always arrive safely. The convoy? It loses 3 trucks that day. Independent trucks, spread out over hours, are nearly impossible to target. Even if one truck is spotted, it's not worth the fuel to hit it. But a convoy? That's a prize. The math is brutal. Convoys suffer 23% losses. Independents, under 3%. The proposal. August 25th. Kowalski brings his notebook to Captain Dennis Hayes. "Sir, I think I know how to cut our supply losses by 90%. Hayes looks him over, dusty coveralls, oil-stained hands, and delivers a line that will echo through logistics history. "Kowalski, you're a goddamn truck driver. Leave the tactics to people who went to West Point." His proposal goes up the chain with a dismissive note. Battalion HQ denies it immediately. Individual vehicle operations eliminate mutual support and violate tactical protocol. Kowalski laughs bitterly. He's been driving trucks longer than these officers have been alive, and they're lecturing him on vehicle operations. But he doesn't give up. On August 27th, he approaches Lieutenant Colonel Martin Burgess.
April 17th, 1943, Maknassi Pass, Tunisia. War isn't quiet. War doesn't wait. And today, war just got humiliated by a 2,000-pound scrap of American steel. The Africa Corps moved through the desert like ghosts, silent, low, disciplined. These were Germany's finest, the men who brought Europe to its knees. But today, they were about to get absolutely violated by something that shouldn't exist. Not a tank, not a bomber, not some secret Allied weapon forged in a lab. No, a Jeep. Picture this. You're crouched behind a rock, rifle ready, sweat burning into your eyes. You trained your whole life for honor, strategy, precision.
And suddenly you hear it. Not a Panzer engine, not a British Matilda tank, a purring, smug little engine that sounds like it's laughing at you. Then it appears, bouncing across the desert like it owns the place. No armor, no roof, no fear, just a dirty green shoebox with wheels, and it's faster than anything you've ever seen. You think, what idiot would go to war in that? Until your squad gets outflanked in 14 seconds by 6 of them, swarming your position like mechanical hyenas. Fast, ruthless, surgical, no mercy, no hesitation. They don't fight like soldiers. They fight like wolves. Browning machine gun swinging, engine screaming, sand exploding. Your men don't even have time to shout before they're pinned and surrounded. There is no German word for what just happened, but there's an American one: domination. And right there, in the dust, in the heat, in the total humiliation, Germany learned something terrifying. This Jeep wasn't a vehicle. It was a goddamn problem. A problem so big, so embarrassing, so unstoppable, that Hitler himself put a bounty on it.
April 17th, 1943, 1740 hours, somewhere outside McNaughey Pass. The Americans didn't waste time with speeches. They didn't bark insults. They didn't parade their victory. They disarmed the Germans faster than a factory assembly line strips scrap metal. Clean, efficient, emotionless. Carl Weber watched them work and realized something unsettling. These weren't the clumsy, lazy Americans German propaganda talked about. These men moved like they had done this 1,000 times.
April 17th, 1943, 1740 hours, somewhere outside McNaughey Pass. The Americans didn't waste time with speeches. They didn't bark insults. They didn't parade their victory. They disarmed the Germans faster than a factory assembly line strips scrap metal. Clean, efficient, emotionless. Carl Weber watched them work and realized something unsettling. These weren't the clumsy, lazy Americans German propaganda talked about. These men moved like they had done this 1,000 times. A Jeep skidded to a stop in front of Carl. The driver hopped out, helmet low, sleeves rolled, a strip of chewing gum in his teeth, like he had zero respect for the desert or the war. He looked maybe 20 years old, just a kid. He tossed a cigarette to one of his buddies and said, "Bag 'em, tag 'em, move 'em." That was it. No ideology, no hate, just work. War to them was industrial. Carl's squad was lined up and searched, dog tags taken, rifles tossed onto a growing pile of captured weapons. A U.S. officer with a clipboard walked past, barely looking at them as he spoke. 10 prisoners, no wounded. Push him to transport. They were no longer soldiers. They were inventory. But Carl wasn't looking at the Americans anymore. He was staring at the Jeep. 2 of them idled in front of him, engines running smooth as sewing machines. The desert had killed half the German vehicles in the region. Sand clogged air filters, heat destroyed radiators, gearboxes died from dust. But these things looked like they didn't even notice the desert existed. One of the Jeeps had a bullet hole through its hood. Another had dents all over the body. One wheel was clearly bent. And yet, they still ran. Impossible, Carl thought. Then he saw something that made his stomach tighten. A metal toolbox was strapped to the side of the Jeep. Just a few wrenches, pliers, a screwdriver, a hunting knife. "That's not a military repair kit," Carl muttered under his breath. That's a farmer's kit." He stepped closer without thinking. A U.S. guard shoved him back. "Keep walking, Fritz." Carl didn't move. He pointed at the Jeep and said in rough English, How does it run like this?" The American shrugged as he slung his Garand rifle over his shoulder. Runs 'cause it's supposed to. What do you mean? The American smirked. It ain't complicated. Fix what breaks. Don't overthink it. He climbed into the Jeep, tapped the dashboard twice, and drove off like a man riding a loyal horse into battle. Carl didn't move for a moment. Then he whispered to himself, "Machines don't fight for you."
December 18th, 1943, Belarus, near Vitebsk. A forest so quiet it feels like the world is holding its breath. Snow falls in slow, whispered flakes. The trees stand like mute sentries. Birch and pine, black ribs against a white sky. Breath fogs in the air, drifting upward like ghosts from the mouths of tired men. 14 Soviet partisans move in a thin file, spaced tight, each step deliberate. Crunch, crunch, crunch. No talking, no coughing, no metal clinking. Every breath stings, winter biting deep into lungs and fingers. They are hunters in enemy country, or so they think. The whisper of boots on snow, a faint rattle of grenades on belts, steam curling off wool caps, a Red Star armband half hidden beneath a torn greatcoat. Their weapons are mismatched. PPSH-41s, captured Kar 98Ks, one battered DP-28 wrapped in cloth to hide its silhouette. Real soldiers, but ghosts to their own army now, operating behind German lines, living off frost and daring. At the front, Lieutenant Alexei Chernov, 25, cheeks hollow from hunger, eyes sharp despite fatigue. Behind him, his second, Sergeant Mikhail Voronov, 32, broad shoulders, weather-creased face, eyes like winter steel, a hunter before the war, a man who moves through the trees like he was born in them. The mission is simple on paper. Cut the German supply artery feeding Vitebsk. In reality, nothing is simple here. The air tastes like danger. The silence feels wrong. Then, it hits you. A sound too faint for a novice to notice, but unmistakable to men who felt death brush past. A metallic click hidden in the wind. A distant breath. A branch releasing snow, not by nature, but by weight shifting beside it. If you're new here and you want real, immersive World War II stories that put you in the cockpit, in the trenches, and behind enemy lines, subscribe now. Most people scroll past history, but you're here to experience it. So hit subscribe and like the video. The mission's only just begun.
You don't see men, but you feel eyes. The lieutenant stops, fist in the air. The line freezes mid-step. A raven croaks in the distance, harsh, mocking. Snow hangs in the air. Voronov slowly turns his head and sees it. A tripwire half buried under light powder. Mines, a line just ahead like hungry teeth waiting for boots. And deeper in the tree line, barely visible, the faintest flickers of cloth, rifle barrels tucked in snow, a shape like a helmet curve vanishing behind bark. MG-42 kill zone. Multiple positions, interlocking arcs, perfect, clinical, German. And they haven't fired. That's the worst part. The Germans are waiting, patient, disciplined, letting the platoon walk deeper, letting the trap close, letting the kill distance shrink so not one man survives when metal hell erupts. The realization spreads down the line like ice water. No one breathes. No birds chirp. Not even the forest dares move. One wrong twitch and 30 rounds a second will tear this clearing open like paper. Lieutenant Chernov's lips move soundlessly. Ambush. His eyes search desperately. They can't charge. Mine's ahead. They can't retreat. The rear path is covered. Shapes in the snow behind them, too. They're boxed, cut, butchered already, just not yet dead. Someone at the back whimpers. A young partisan clutches his PPSH so tight his knuckles blanch white under frostbitten skin. A man murmurs a prayer in Ukrainian under his breath. Another kisses a locket through his gloves. You can feel hearts pounding. Loud enough it feels like the Germans must hear it too. Everything slows. Breaths stretch. Air crystallizes. Time is a trapped animal trying to flee. Then, Voronov moves. No panic, no trembling. Just a long exhale, as if he'd been expecting this moment his whole life. His gaze sweeps the kill zone, calculating every angle like he's studying a deer trail, except the predators now are steel-eyed men behind machine guns. He leans toward the lieutenant. No fear, only resolve forged by too many funerals. A whisper, steady as a winter river. They're waiting to confirm targets. One man draws fire. The rest move. Chernov's face goes pale. He shakes his head violently, eyes wide, breath breaking. Voronov gives him a quiet, heavy half-smile, the kind only men who have already made peace with death can manage. Let me walk first. He pulls a strip of torn cloth from his pocket, white from a peasant's shirt, ties it around his rifle, a makeshift flag of surrender. Men stare, horror, disbelief, awe, mixing in their eyes. One mutters, voice cracking, "Seriosa, don't." Another clutches his sleeve like a drowning man reaching for a branch. Voronov gently pries the hand off. Someone has to. He steps forward. Snow crunches under his boot, louder than gunfire in this moment. He raises his rifle above his head, hands open, a prisoner to be, a fool, a dead man walking. Step, step, step. The forest watches. German helmets shift in the tree line, surprised, confused. Their fingers hover on triggers, not yet closing. They want prisoners. They want interrogation. 20 meters. Air trembles. 30 meters. His breath fogs like smoke from a burning soul. Then, a twitch of his hand, a pin pulled silently. He drops low, arm whipping forward, smoke grenade arcing, spitting sparks, hissing white fury. He dives sideways, coat flaring, and the world erupts. MG-42s scream, trees explode, snow vaporizes. His body turns into a blur of motion, zigzagging, rolling, firing bursts that are more defiance than aim. The trap snaps shut, but on its own teeth. Behind him, bodies rise, weapons ready. Lieutenant Chernov roars through the chaos. Go! Flank left. The forest goes from dead silence to roaring hellfire.
The first burst of German fire hits the trees like a saw blade of lightning, ripping bark, spitting splinters, shaking snow loose in violent white clouds. The forest, moments ago a frozen chapel, becomes a grinding throat of steel and thunder. Voronov is already moving, not running like a soldier, but like a hunted animal that knows the forest's heartbeat. Snow kicks up behind him, bullets scythe past so close they tug threads from his coat. A round snaps through his sleeve, burning flesh, but he does not slow. The smoke grenade blossoms, a dirty, choking gray cloud that swallows the clearing. For one precious heartbeat, the Germans lose their sight. Then, instinct takes over. The platoon explodes into motion. No hesitation, no orders needed beyond that one desperate scream. Chernov drives forward, voice raw. Left, left, move! Boots slam into frozen mud.
Cold air tears lungs. Hands tighten around triggers slick with frost and sweat. They break into two assault pushes, one low, one wide. A PPSH-41 barks, a violent drum roll of 71-round fury. Grenades arc, smooth metal eggs clutched too long, teeth grinding as fuses hiss. One man sprints crouched, DP-28 disc magazine rattling like a dinner plate of death. The smoke thickens, swallowing shapes. The world becomes flashes, screams, and snow turning black and red.